with the quarterbacks traditionally. Who we got?
I'm going to go with Matthew Stafford because the band is back together for the Rams. I mean, we saw what they look like with Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua back on the field. Look, with 2 games, with both Puka and Kupp, Stafford averaging nearly 300 passing yards per game, almost 21 fantasy points per game. In the 4 games he played without either of those guys, about 215 passing yards per game, just 2 touchdowns, 3 picks, under 10 points per game. Now he's got a Seattle defense that over the last 4 or 5 games given up 11 total touchdown passes, about 20 fantasy points per game to quarterbacks. In that stretch between weeks 4 and 8, only one quarterback has scored fewer than 19 fantasy points. This looks like another situation for Matthew Stafford to go up there and excel.
And I'm going to go with the quarterback that Matthew Stafford faced off against in his Super Bowl victory, and that is Joe Burrow, who has 5 games this year with at least 2 touchdown passes. Only one other quarterback has done that, and you probably won't know who it is. It's Baker Mayfield. And so when you talk about consistency, Joe Burrow has been there. 15 passing touchdowns this season with just 3 interceptions. That is tied for the 4th highest rate in the NFL. And what I really like about this is the matchup against the Las Vegas Raiders. If there's one thing we've seen out of the Raiders this year, is that they just don't really have an identity offensively, defensively, although they're not very good at taking away the ball. They have 4 takeaways this season. That is tied for the 2nd fewest in the NFL.
I will go to the running back position, Rank, and I will take the running back that ran all over Joe Burrow's Bengals last week in Saquon Barkley. A prominent return to the RB1 position, I believe, against the Jacksonville Jaguars, who have allowed a top 6 running back in 3 of the last 4 games. They're in the bottom 3 of the entire NFL in stopping running backs. Saquon's really good, especially when he gets into the end zone. RB1 is always going to be a threat for him, especially considering and it's not always going to be Jalen Hurts brotherly shoves into the end zone. Saquon's going to get a few into the paint. What say you, Marcus Grant?
I say Devon Achane has a good shot to be the RB1 this week. And sort of like with Matthew Stafford and who is back in the offense, the same can be said of Devon Achane. With Tua, Achane averaging more than 26 fantasy points per game. Without Tua, he was averaging fewer than 7. The biggest thing is Achane is so much more of a part of the passing game with Tua there, averaging 7 targets per game with his starting quarterback there in the game. The Bills, meanwhile, struggled against pass-catching running backs. They've given up the most receiving yards, 2nd most touchdowns to running backs this season. We know Achane is explosive. If he doesn't get it done on the ground, he probably gets it done through the air this week.
Wideout time, right?
I'm going to go with Justin Jefferson, who has 4 games with 20-plus fantasy points this year. That's tied for the most in the NFL. 6 receptions, 80-plus yards in 5 consecutive games, the longest active streak. I know none of you want to admit now that you were apprehensive about him because of Sam Darnold. That's fine. You can admit things. Like, listen, I missed on Zamir White. We can admit where we were wrong. Justin Jefferson has been every bit as good as we thought or some of us thought he was going to be. And I'm having him as my number 1 guy in Week 9.
And I will round out the 2019 LSU Tigers with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. No, I'm just kidding. Jamar Chase will be the wide receiver 1. He's averaging 2.7 points per target in the last 4 games. He's getting 7.5 targets per game. Counting on my fingers, I think he's going to have points against the Las Vegas Raiders. When we come back here on Fantasy Live,